One of the podcast videos that I have a great deal of opinion on would be the language death. And it was saying that actually shocking facts at the end that one language dies off every 2 weeks. So I guess my opinion on that would be, why do we put so much emphasis on saving the animals? I know it's very important, but you never hear a statistic like that, and I would have never known that without watching this particular podcast. So why don't people feel that it's necessary to save language as we do to save all of these animals out there? Especially because Chris, in the podcast, he had said that when you lose a language, you lose a person's knowledge, and we already have knowledge of all of these animals, and I'm not against animal rights and all of that. I'm all for the animals, but to lose someone's knowledge, I think, is detrimental to society as a whole, especially in a linguist point of view. When you look at it, you're losing someone's whole personality and what their beliefs are. And the one example they use is the camel, and how in our language it's one unified meaning, but in another language there could be many meanings for the word camel. So you could be missing out on so much by just letting go of a language. And then one thing that I found really interesting was was Ishi. He was the man in California, and how he couldn't give his name because it was against his culture, but he was still standing by his culture, which is terrible, because no one will ever know how important it was that he gave all of this information to the linguist Edward Sapir, who really worked on it and wrote down all of this language, where there are, I'm sure, plenty of languages that are not documented at all. So we were just lucky enough to find him at the last minute. So what would happen if we found those people now? And why aren't we looking at all of these languages? I'm sure there's tons of linguists in the world. So why aren't they finding these languages and writing them down now before we lose them? That's huge. At least in my opinion, I think it's huge. That language needs to be correctly documented, because you don't want to lose what a person and a society and this culture believes in just because their whole language was wiped away before we could be able to document it. And it's a big aspiration to try and write down all of the languages, but I think it would definitely be something to look back on and read, and all of that. I think it'd be really good for our society and for linguists as a whole.